Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. A good topic today. You put your Judgy McJudgy pants hat on. Let's do it. What's the darkest secret you kept from your partner? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. She moved from her hometown to be with me. Her best friend from that hometown was in treatment for cancer. She would go visit him periodically. I was good friends with him too. She had not visited him in quite a while, maybe a year, and couldn't make it back for Christmas. She sent him a long letter and Christmas card, but messed up the address. He passed away suddenly, and the card ended up being returned to our home. I saw the returned letter in the mail and realized what had happened. I threw it away and told her that she could have some solace in that he knew she was thinking about him before he passed. I will never tell her the truth. I just want my wife back. I want my wife who asked how my day was. I want my wife who reached for my hand on long car rides. I want my wife who would search slowly for my body in the dark. Depression is a thief. Yes, she has seen help, medicated. It's been 10 years. I know she loves me, but I wish I could tell her that her depression has robbed us both. That I know it's not her fault, that I wish that even though depression, she would see that I'm still here. I still care, and I yearn for the woman I fell in love with. I yearn for her to care for me the way I care for her. Not dark at all on my part. The only reason I hesitate when he wants to use my phone is in case he sees A, how many tabs I have open, and B, how much absolutely ridiculously trashy celebrity gossip I'm reading about. He wouldn't care, but I'd like to pretend I'm not rotting my brain in my spare moments for some reason. Now, when my dad passed away, he had a girlfriend I didn't care for. She tried to take his house and estate from me. Failed miserably. But I did have to hire a lawyer and waste a day standing over her while she poked around looking for things that she thought were hers. I found out about a year later that she was not involved in an art forgery ring. Found out from a New York Times article even. My dad would have found it kind of funny though. He loved having crazy stories and crazy girlfriends, I guess. About 6 months after I gave birth to my daughter, I got pregnant again. My husband and I were living at his parents' house at a time rent-free, yet we still barely made enough money to support one child. I was devastated when I found out. Not only because of the financial burden, but also because my mental health made it a struggle to be a good mom to the kid I already had. I wanted an abortion, and my husband agreed with me that it was the best option for us at the time. He was supportive and had an upbeat attitude about the whole thing, right up until we checked in at the clinic. He broke down in the lobby, and while he still supported my decision, he just couldn't keep up the facade that he was okay with this any longer. Up until that moment, I had absolutely no clue how sad he was about this, and my heart broke because I should have noticed. This didn't change my decision, however. They made you get an ultrasound before the procedure, and I decided that I would try to spare him a small amount of guilt. He didn't accompany me to the ultrasound, so when it was done, I went back to the lobby and gambled on a lie I hoped he would believe. I told him the ultrasound tech couldn't find a heartbeat, and that the fetus was not viable, but they would still perform the D&C instead of waiting to miscarry. He seemed relieved that the decision to end this life was no longer ours to make. I genuinely think he believed it, but if he didn't, he's never called me out on it or questioned it. That was a decade ago, and I still feel like shit for lying, but at least he doesn't have to live with the guilt or regret for a decision I would still have made regardless. My 28 male, stay-at-home wife, 28 female, thinks I make $80K a year. I made $170,000 this year, just at work. I have $2,000 from every paycheck, so $4K a month is going to a hidden, high-yield savings account at 4.5% APY. She also thinks I make about $2,700 a paycheck. I also have an additional $4,900 in military disability that is untaxed that goes to the same account. So $8,900 untouched every month for the past 5 years. I have over $500,000 in that second account. We still rent a 2-bedroom apartment and have a 4-year plan to buy a house. Our budget is $400K in those 4 years. What she doesn't know is I bought 30 acres 3 years ago in cash, and in 5 years I'm going to have her build her dream house with custom plans to build on the land with a budget of $1.5 million and pay cash for it. When people are sick, my wife is a shitty caregiver, especially to me. She was nearly unkind and used to make crappy remarks about me being lazy and looking for attention. When she's sick, she gets up and suddenly does extra chores or anything to stay busy, claiming that if she were to just let herself be sick and lay down, nothing would get done. Definitely some weird childish drama that I can't quite figure out. So one day I was particularly sick, and she goes to start her crap about me going to die and that we need to call a wambulance. She says something to the effect that I'm not sick, I just don't feel well, and I need to get up and stop being a bitch. I was getting furious, so I dragged my ass into the bedroom and coughed and sneezed all over her pillows. Within 2 days, she was sick to the gills, and I was on the mend. She asked me about getting her some soup or a drink, and my retort was that she wasn't just feeling well and not sick, so she could get it herself. Silence was her response. I think she finally realized she was a bitch, and since then has backed off the hard-ass caregiver routine. She still isn't the best, but at least you're not left alone to die of dysentery, Oregon Trail style. So all these stories I read today between second families, infidelity, really some dark, traumatic things, for some reason, this one I think bothered me the most. Sneezing and coughing into someone's pillow to teach them a lesson, I think that blurs the line between revenge and just being a jerk. I don't think that's right. So if that's how you prove a point, your relationship might need a little more help than you think. 3 months ago, I bought a house that she told me not to buy. It is the house across the street from one of my rentals. The owner contacted me and asked if I wanted to buy it to rehab. I told her about it, and she told me not to buy it because she thought I was spending too much money after I retired. She does not see it as investing, just spending because the money is gone rather than converted. But the deal was too good to pass up, so I bought it for cash. Now I have 2 offers from 2 other investors to buy it for 57% more than I paid for it. The offers are still too low because I can make more rehabbing it and flipping it or renting it. She cannot keep track of all the property I own, so I can probably get away with it. I don't know if it's dark, but I never told my wife of 5 years that I had a son to a woman that left me when I was 20, never to hear from her again. I married my now ex-wife when I was 39. After learning of my wife's infidelity, we divorced. I was bummed out, searched out my son, and we met for the first time last spring. He's an amazing mid-20-year-old man, and we've become crazy best friends. I'm so happy to know him, and so happy to know that my ex doesn't get to know him. She doesn't deserve to know him. A major secret caused a lot of trouble in my family. Turns out my grandpa's brother had a second family, and this only came to light when he died. I have no idea how he juggled 2 complete families in separate countries, but he did so for about 15 years. Grandpa's brother died of a heart attack young, probably from having 2 families, and it was at the funeral that everything came out. Needless to say, it caused a lot of shame for the original family, and my grandpa is still pissed his brother did it. Back in the 90s, 2 people were murdered in the house my boyfriend now owns. My boyfriend didn't grow up here, but my dad knew the victim, so not only did he tell me that it happened, but he also told me how it happened and where specifically in the house it happened. Where we live, there's no requirement for realtors to disclose if something like that happened in a house they're selling, so I have no idea if he knows already or not. There is obviously a chance that he doesn't know, or does know, and doesn't want me to tell, so I'm not creeped out staying there. But I really feel like he has no idea, and I can't bring myself to ask him because I don't want to be the one who tells him. My longtime girlfriend doesn't know my daughter is not mine. My ex-wife and her current husband are the parents only a few people know. I didn't find out until she was 4 when I took a paternity test, after one of my exes told my mom after we broke up that her only grandkid is not a blood relation. I don't tell anyone now after they blew up in my face. The fear of that lie destroying my relationship with my daughter eats me alive sometimes. Oof. If I could give some unsolicited advice from a slightly old man, that relationship is not healthy, and I think it would be best for both of you to figure out a way to end it as amicably as possible, because I think in just be an endless cycle of repeating this bad behavior, and neither of you will be happy, so take the leap. That the reason the shower didn't get fixed properly was because I was busy fooling around with the guy who was supposed to be fixing it. He knows I cheated. He doesn't know I told him because I thought he'd actually finally leave me, because I've tried about 100 times to leave him. That I'm more disappointed than appreciative that this year is the first year in over a decade that he's tried to quit drinking and repair our relationship, and that it just means the option was already always there, but he didn't think it was worth fixing the relationship, including cheating on me multiple times, until he saw there was a viable threat in the midst, and now suddenly he's trying to be the best partner ever. Get out. I'm single, so it's not me who is keeping this secret. I am the secret. Here's the deal. When I was 17, I had a friend, girl, same age, who had a boyfriend at the time, who only just told me that she thinks my genes are superior, and she would like me to be the father of her children. I thought she wasn't serious, and I took it as a compliment and agreed. Fast forward 3 years. We've grown apart somewhat due to a girlfriend I had for a year, but out of the blue she brings this up again and asks me to keep my promise. After I explained I would not be someone she could actively cheat on her partner with, we agreed that I would donate sperm to her. She had it frozen in a sperm bank. Not shortly after, we had a serious falling out and cut contact. She has since married a different guy, who was, in my mind, much more attractive than me, but to my surprise, she sends me the agreed-upon signal one day. Yeah, she used my juice. About 9 months later, she gave birth to a baby girl who is definitely mine. She's now about 2 years old, and as far as I can tell, they are a very happy family, and I am sure neither she nor the father will ever know she is a cuckoo child. The biggest secret I've kept from my significant other is that his friend tried to sleep with me. We were all at a party drinking, and by the end everyone was pretty drunk, so we all decided to just sleep at said friend's house. I was on the couch, and my significant other was on the floor a few feet from me asleep. I hadn't fallen asleep yet, and his friend stumbled out of the room and sat on the couch next to where I was lying. He started rubbing my feet, which I didn't think was all too weird, but then he started to get really touchy. I kept pushing him away, but he wouldn't stop. He got on top of me and told me it was fine because my significant other could sleep with the friend's girlfriend tomorrow. I ended up pinching him hard on his underarm, and he jumped up off me. I told him it would never happen, then crawled over and laid down next to my significant other. After that, I was awake the whole night, scared he would try something. After that, I excused myself from any outing he would be at, and eventually the friend and my significant other had a falling out over something else, and we no longer talk or see him at all. That only real secret I've kept is stupid, and I regret it. When I met my wife, she pointed out that my female best friend was really hot and asked me if we'd ever hooked up. We did a couple of times when we were both single years prior, and we promised each other never to tell anyone, so I kind of felt like it wasn't my secret to disclose. I didn't know that this girl I had just started seeing would become my wife. Years later, she asked me again and even said, "I wouldn't be surprised if you did, but you both promised to never tell." The reason I feel stupid about it is my wife is not the jealous type. She wouldn't have cared. However, she is the type to overthink things. So if I went to her and said, "I should have said something 5 years ago," she'd start wondering what else I haven't told her. And really, that's it. Maybe not the dark, but it's that I'm terrified to have kids. We both want them. My number one fear in life is her dying in some kind of pregnancy complication. We live in a red state, so getting medical help may not even be an option with good insurance, And she might go to prison, even for trying with the way the laws are moving, My number two fear after that is PPD/her stopping loving me after having kids or not showing me affection anymore and giving me my kids are all I need line or something like that. I have trouble trying to tell her these things because I'm afraid she'll think I don't want kids and break up with me. My partner knows bits of this, but not all the details. All he knows is my therapist did something to me. When I just turned 18 after a self-harm episode, I went to the hospital. They gave me a therapist, a guy old enough to be my father, and at first I thought he would maybe be good for me. So I kept in contact with him. He would do house visits for me. I was very vulnerable at the time, still mentally unstable, My family was going through a whole host of shit, and I felt alone and unlovable. I didn't have many friends at the time. He helped me feel better when I shared these things with him, and he would let me call him off hours too if I needed to talk. Then, that turned into him taking me for drives to get a coffee and talk in my favorite coffee shop. Then that turned into walking some nature trails in the summer. I didn't realize it at the time, but he would always make little comments about how he was the only one who understood me, he cared for me, etc. You can probably see where this is going. I'm a people pleaser who is terrified of confrontation. He started saying he wouldn't see me anymore if I didn't let him take some pictures of me, revealing suggestive pictures. And I let him because I was afraid of being abandoned and utterly alone. Then he would touch me in his car, call me names, tell me I was a whore who liked it, etc., etc. By that point, I didn't really know what to do anymore. So I let it happen, maybe a year or so, before finally saying I couldn't do it anymore. My boyfriend knows I had a therapist do something bad to me, but he doesn't know details and definitely doesn't know about the pictures. I've never told a soul that I let him photograph me. It makes me feel disgusting. I'm 30 now, and sometimes still think about it and hate myself. Once in a while, I can feel him touch me, see his face and how he licked his fingers after, or wake up thinking somehow my family will see the pictures of me or something, even though that was 12 years ago now. I usually just push it to the back and don't think about it. I don't really think anyone wants to hear that type of stuff anyway. It's a lot to take on and makes others uncomfortable. I had a really close friend in primary school. My mom and her mom got on really well, and we would be over there and she was over here a lot. We were really little, but he was away a lot for work, always traveling. I barely ever saw him when he would have play dates and stuff, which is important. Sadly, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and it all happened pretty quickly from diagnosis to him passing. Fast forward to when they were in the hospital saying goodbye. A whole other family walked in to do the same thing. His other family, from Australia. We're in the UK. That's how and when my friend, her brother and sister, and their mom found out. He died a couple of days later. I didn't know about it at the time because I was too young to comprehend, but my mom told me years later, and I just couldn't believe someone could do that. How do you keep that up? My friend was the eldest, and we were about 7 to 10 at the time, and her brother and sister were only a few years younger. His other family had young kids too, so I don't know how much they knew or understood at the time, but how do you keep that kind of secret? He would literally fly between the two and play this loving, doting dad and husband. One family on one side of the world and one on the other. And he must have known that's how both of them would find out. It sounds made up, but I swear to God, I just don't understand how you'd keep that up for years. You can't call it a secret, it's so huge. Not exactly dark, but a long-term one. My wife and I enjoy going to a beach located in the state that we live in. We go maybe twice a year. One of her favorite things in the world to do is to go shelling in the mornings. When she finds a good shell, she's over the moon. It just makes her so happy. Several years ago, I started buying shells at a souvenir shop, and while we're walking looking for shells, I drop or toss them on the ground for her to find. It's a miracle I've never been caught, because I've done it many times, and I've gotten greedy and started putting out bigger and more rare shells. I know that it's actually deeply dishonest on a few levels, but I don't care. It makes her so happy that I'm okay with being a liar. The relationship is over now, but when we were just friends, a new girl joined our friend group. I was very interested in this new girl and planned on bringing her home after we all went out to the bar. A third friend let me know she wasn't interested in me. Drunk me ended up making a move on my friend because I didn't want to go home alone. That kicked off a 3-year relationship with someone I wasn't really attracted to. I feel so lonely during the holiday season because my wife's sister flies in, expecting all of us to take PTO and wait on her and her family's every whim. It's an extremely stressful time at work usually, and combined with the Queen coming in, I feel like I don't have a support system, especially since my therapist also goes on vacation at this time. Because during this time, my wife ignores me and is solely focused on keeping her sister happy. We spend a significant amount of time with her sister and family, completely ignoring mine, despite my sister, my parents, and myself asking for just some consideration. Thanksgiving and Christmas Day are almost always reserved for my wife's family because there are more people, and my wife had a bad experience with my family 10 years prior. Every year for these 4 weeks or so, I feel so lonely that I strongly consider taking my life. Whoa. My wife's intersperts it as just some being a Scrooge and tells me not to ruin the holiday for her, even though she spends the whole time trying to cater to her sister. She expects the kids to find me to help, and so she transfers that pressure to us. The kids are resilient, but I feel so broken inside during this time. I tell her, but she thinks I'm just overreacting. For a long time, I didn't tell her about the man whose life I ended. While deployed, I acted in an emotional moment and regretted it almost immediately. My chain of command helped make the incident go away and life went on. After I came home, I struggled with anger and post-traumatic stress, as many of us do. She was respectful and supported me as well as knows me how. After a few years passed, I felt that I could talk more openly with her about some of the things I had seen and experienced overseas. There were lots of painful memories that I shared with her, and we both wept. I finally told her about how I took a life in an extreme anger moment and tried to make it clear how sorry I was. We split up last year. When we had the talk, she brought up the story I had told her and how she never felt at ease with me after that. So I really don't like talking about it anymore.